Need a fucking haircut.
So
this is for your documentaries, isn't it?
Why are we exactly here now at this moment?
We're here to round off 14 weeks work by applying some more grading to some picked up shots.
Yeah. 14 weeks, and it's almost the end.
Yeah, well, the end for the module, not necessarily the end for the film.
No.
It's going well so far.
What's happening?
What do I think to Alan? Who's Alan? The original story concept came from, of course, you and Alan to begin with, if we're talking about this story. And very loosely, it was mentioned about a jar of marbles and about a guy losing his marbles and trying to find them again, but want a better kind of description. Which is really what the concept was to begin with, and that was the main problem. There was no real kind of story, there wasn't a particularly strong spine behind the concept. The concept was nice, but that was really, the story was lacking a little bit, and I think it was lacking in characterisation. Which is when we started trying to re-script it, and things were quite difficult. It wasn't quite going as planned, and me and Alan in particular were quite busy because of our interactive media. But then it stopped when we were getting closer to production, and I was taken with the marble idea quite early on, and thought just the imagery that you could have with the marble were great and what it could represent. So I went ahead in my own time, and I think it was one afternoon, and I just thought, right, fuck it, I mean, screw it, I'm going to go and re-script it and start from the very, very beginning. So I decided when I wrote it to write a story, and write just a story to begin with, and then see where the marbles could fit into that story. How could I tell the same story using the marbles, and that's where it emerged from.
No, Tyler's brand new.
How did it sound?
And just wait. It's not good on here, but just have a listen. That's as high as it goes.
That's alright.
I think we'll mix
it's short.
the two. Yeah.
It was rough. It was very rough. I think the main problem for me was that because it was my own script, the way it was interpreted by the actors was not quite how I expected it. I wasn't disappointed with it, but it wasn't quite what I expected.
Here's an idea, get off your ass, help me clean. Take a look at this.
So I found in terms of directing them otherwise quite difficult without reverting to something that I'd already seen in my mind, but I didn't want to restrict them in that way. So I let them have more free reign over it, and then just kind of treated the niggles that were getting to me within their performance. I think the other big problem was that there were that many technical issues or environmental issues that we were all so focused on getting all the technical bits right to make it look proper, to make it look right and sound right once we get it back, that I lost a little bit of focus on the acting itself, and I think the footage kind of represents that. While the performances aren't bad, they're not quite what I was really looking for, but because of the tight days, I mean, we wanted a 5-day shoot, we only got 3 days, and we were shooting from morning until night every day. So I can't be too disappointed and won't be too harsh on myself and the rest of us, but the production was difficult, definitely, because of the weather changing and all sorts.
I'm holding the clipboard so tight, I'm like intense.
Well, there's some sunnage right now.
I want to know.
The living room scene is the one that really sticks in my head. And that's odd because we shot outdoors and that was fine, and we shot in an abandoned hospital and that was fine, but the living room, it was just a really odd shape, and the lighting through the window didn't hold up for us, so we had to light the scene internally, which I mean, we would have had to do it anyway, but we were relying on it. And we couldn't position the lights, out of shot. It was just too tight, and it was the only scene that we didn't go recce, which really what pissed me off. So we shot and we shot and we shot, and we were redoing the scene over and over again, and it just didn't look right on screen. The lighting wasn't right, the framing wasn't right, and the actors were getting pissed off, everybody was getting frustrated, everything was set up, and it felt like it was just me going, do it again, do it again, do it again, not happy, do it again, and people were visibly getting quite pissed off with me. So I think in the end I told everybody to take a break, let the actors go out for a cigarette, and we had less than an hour left, if I remember rightly. It was like 45 minutes to get the entire scene, which we hadn't done in like 3 hours. So we readjusted the lights, and Luke did really well technically then, getting the lights bouncing off the ceiling. And I went into a damage control mode, and we just went through the scene over and over and over and over and over again. Really quickly, with all the dialogue from every angle, and in doing that, I think on the one hand we salvaged the scene, and I think it's what needed to be happen, but I got so focused into damage control mode that I was missing little things and not focusing on performance properly, and I got really quite annoyed with myself. And I think after that shoot, I really, when I got home, I sat myself down and relaxed and kind of like really had a good look at myself, because I think that day I really felt like I wasn't in control of what was happening, even though you could argue that, you know, we got it in the end, but even now to look at it, I think I still feel it's our weakest scene.
If I suddenly disappear that way.
Do you have anything in particular to say about the way the filming of the car crash went down?
Well, it was fun. It was cold, and I think next time we do it, I'll make sure I check the car battery first before we go out to film.
We were very professional about it, considering this is I'd say one of my major projects, and working with people who I haven't worked with before. We got along very well, and the shoot went better than expected, with minor setbacks, as with any production, mainly due to the weather and situations that were out of our control. Like for example, the car not starting up. No one could have planned for that. No matter how hard you plan, you cannot plan for a car boot to be locked and need to jumpstart with 4 cables and losing the keys just when you need to jumpstart it. And now we've lost the bloody
Someone's had it last and forgot.
Yeah, I didn't have the keys. I found them on the floor in the garage, and Damien will back me up. The actor, he will back me up with that. They were on the floor in the garage. The keys were on the floor in the garage.
I'll show you.
He had them in his pocket all along.
I'll show you this.
But actually, I really enjoyed that. By this point in time in the documentary, I don't know if you already know about it, but we're out filming in a tight little alleyway, and all the lights are on, all the actors are ready, everything's set to go. We spent hours setting up. We shot for God knows how long, not very long, and the battery in the car died.
Okay. Am I well lit?
Yeah, you're beautifully lit. What's going on then?
Okay. The battery ran out on the car when we weren't using the battery. So these 2 front doors are open, the boot can't open, the 2 back doors can't open, and we need to jump start the car in order to do the scene. The battery isn't in here. The battery's in the boot. We can't open the boot if the battery's dead. We need to connect 3 jump cables together, wire them through the 2 only open front doors into the boot underneath 2 layers of panelling to get to the battery.
Right. So out of 10, how would you rate the design of this car?
I would rate it at what's absolute 0 in degrees centigrade?
-273.
Minus 273. Something like that.
It's lovely.
Out of 10, survival rate. I think it's best we don't divulge that statistic at the moment.
Lost a lot of time waiting around in the cold, but no, I'd take that over the living room scene, to be quite honest.
Oh.
Headlight. Now we've got a film.
Yay! Oh.
Leave that on. Nobody touch the car. Go for a break.
Post-production. What was the plan?
The plan was, Curtis, you were editing the film, and I was going to kind of keep an eye over it, as was doing all the other bits and pieces. God knows what Alan was doing. What was Alan doing?
Alan was on Facebook.
Yeah, increasing his friends list, and I was doing the graphics, post-production on the graphics and the grading. This was my first experience with grading. I'd never done it before. I'd heard of it before, but there was really Amelia, the actress, that kind of really indicated that she felt that grading the film would really give it an additional oomph and really give it that extra little lift. So I decided to do some research into it and found some software and downloaded, went out and bought FX Studio for PC. And because I use Photoshop and I've used editing software as well and Illustrator, I've got quite a bit of experience with the graphics, so I decided to try and learn the program.
Do you want to explain some problems with 4x3 and 16x9?
I really hope Coventry University lecturers are watching this. I don't care which one. Avid sucks balls. Balls. Balls.
I'm going to give a bit of a lowdown here. Basically, whenever you export from Avid and take it home to edit, you import it into your editor and it all looks fine. And when you finally save it and export it as a movie file, it's all in 4:3 instead of 16:9, which means you have to get QuickTime Pro and convert it into a 16:9 image video, which it does fine and correct and everything. But when it comes to grading like this, and you export each individual scene has to be put into QuickTime and changed back to 16:9 to be put into my editor again, to be edited and saved, and then changed again to 16:9. Even when you take a screenshot, as in you capture a single frame and save it because you want a picture for your DVD, it exports it in 4:3, even when you've changed it to 16:9 on the editor itself. It makes no sense.
Before on the rough footage, and then apply it to the final cut. And that's what I've been doing since, when did we start editing?
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago. Yeah, for about 2 weeks. And that's why my skin is all pasty, my hair has not been cut, and my eyes are all sunken and red, and Red Bull has been my best friend for the last few weeks. Overall it's gone fairly well though. We're almost finished. Finished for the module, just grading these last little pieces of footage and we're done. A lot of it was just exposure correction, correcting shots that didn't come out quite right, and then I've tried to give certain scenes a different feel. You know, I think the marbles were of such great importance, and I think during the shoot, apart from the first the first shots, we lost some of that importance by not lighting the marbles themselves particularly well. They didn't stand out enough, so I've gone through and made sure that each and every marble in the actual films really jumps out at you.
Right, well basically the production went really well. Our team worked really well together, probably the best team I've worked in as of yet being at uni. Luke as a director he knows what he's talking about, he knows what he wants, he's got a good eye for film, he also understands camera movements, so it helps when he's talking to me on camera. He can have a lot of input into the production, into the photography of the film. Curtis edited the film. He's also edited this documentary. He's done a good job of editing the film. I hadn't seen any of the editing process. When I saw the rough cut, it was quite impressive to see it all come together.
So Alam has been brilliant throughout. Don't want to heap too much praise on any one person, because I think anybody who doesn't get the praise then is going to be a little bit pissed off, but Alan really worked his socks off, particularly in post-production. I think we should all thank him for what he did in terms of getting the locations, ringing around people, chasing things up, chasing leads up.
Pre-production, yeah.
Pre-production, yeah. Generally just doing all the annoying little things that myself as a director didn't want to have to focus on too much, because I wanted to look more at the creative vision. So getting bogged down with ringing people up and hassling people and chasing people is not really where you want to be, and Alan did that really well.
Do you want to mention Az again, the sound? Go.
Well, I asked Az on several occasions what's doing the time code. Is it correct? Do you feel confident? If you don't feel confident, we can do it again. We've got the time. Just ask if you've got any problems. He said, it's fine. It's fine. He said, it's cool. I know, yeah. And then I think he partly blames Luke Jones because Luke Jones was wearing the headphones. So part responsibility to Luke Jones.
I think in terms of getting the locations we used, he also did very, very well. I think we all kind of pitched in and researching the locations and looking at the locations, and I went down with Alan and found the hospital, which was really great. But getting it all fixed up, making sure we could use it, getting contact details and signatures, and getting it all done above board, he did very, very well. Post-production, during production, he was always around doing everything that needed to be done, and that was really useful to have.
Okay. One spoon for you? I have to hold this.
As am I.
Two. I also play a treat.
As was good. As is great because, not being funny, trying to play down his role in the production, but his role in doing the paperwork and organisation is a huge strength. I am not an organised person, nor is Curtis. I've seen his room. Alan is organised and Az is organised, and they work together really well. The group workbook, is a lot of work, and Az did a lot of it himself, just organising the work, getting it all together, and making sure it's all done. That's why he does best. That's why he's a teacher, even if he frustrates us all with his constant mantra about following the brief. During production, he communicated well, for sure, and he was constantly mindful about what he was doing, making sure he was doing things right. Unneeded and unwanted boom appearances on camera, notwithstanding. I think a little bit more communication in terms of if the sound is going well was needed, because a lot of the sound that we got was not usable, and some of the sounds that we needed weren't captured. That is as much my fault as it is his, but when you've got your mind focused on so many different things, sometimes it's useful to have someone just point things out to you and say, look, we didn't get a sound on that take, can we go for another one? Because I can't always have my eye and my ears on everything at once.
My role was sound operator, and I'm new to this role, so I apologise to a group because I have messed it up with some of the sound. When I say some of the sound, I mean the majority of the sound, and I apologise to the group. I'll learn a lot from it, I guess.
He did very well.
What's your view on him only having one credit in the end sequence of the film, being sound?
It's very difficult because it doesn't reflect the work that he's put in, because he has put in, but unfortunately a lot of the work that he's put in goes towards the module and our marks more than the film itself. That's not a knock against him, that's just the reality. I think if he had done post-production on the sound, then he would have had more, but if he'd been doing post-production on the sound, he couldn't have focused on the module for the group as much. So, maybe there's an argument that he should get an extra credit within the film, just to kind of let people know that he hasn't done as much work as us, because I don't think he's skipped on it at all.
Yeah, I just want to end on a high note. Fun to work with the guys. Alan was a good producer, assistant director. Luke knows his stuff about his cameras, like Ryder. Jonesy, good director. I'll love to have him as my director all the time. Curtis, he was good editor. It's nice to see that everyone's enthusiastic about the post-production side of things. I was responsible for research. Everyone just did their jobs. We're a good group, we're organised. I hope that this film kicks ass and we make more in the future.
This is the auditioning for Storage Space, work in progress. We're about to get in, what's the woman's name? Amelia.
Alright, Curtis. Brutally honest, to begin with, I was a little bit worried. during the post-production, came up with a cracking idea, and we all agreed that it was the direction we wanted to go, which was great. Unfortunately, in the developing of that idea, I felt that it was a little segregated to begin with. I think Alan and Curtis, because they came up with the idea, really wanted to develop it, and you could feel that, which was good.
Pre-production, right?
Pre-production, yeah. But I felt that they were segregating themselves too much, so we were coming and having the meetings, going away, and coming back, and changes had been made, but they weren't necessarily the right changes, and I think it got to the point where I was almost worried that the script and the idea itself was going to get too babied, and not given the broader attention that it really needed. It was becoming too focused, and I think the characterisation in particular frustrated me a little bit. I think to get to certain points in the story, it started to become convoluted, and that worried me. But then, after that, things started becoming more group orientated. We started talking about it more and getting it more out in the open, and I think that's the point the group really started to come together and work together. After that, it did very, very well. I think the thing I like about working with Curtis is that he always says what needs to be said, and even if he likes asking questions at sometimes the wrong times, he asks questions that other people won't ask and do need to be asked, and they're not technical questions all the time. Sometimes they're technical questions, sometimes they're technical suggestions, other times they're creative questions, and creative questions, which as a director is very, very useful. Because like I said, sometimes you get bogged down in one thing and you miss certain things, and to have somebody creatively backing you up like that and making sure they're there and viewing it with a separate brain and viewing it from a slightly different angle is really useful. During production itself, particularly in the living room scene, I remember he actually salvaged that scene quite nicely with a couple of really good suggestions when I wasn't performing quite as I would have liked. But in every scene he was there making really good suggestions, and really, although not credited it within the film, I think assistant director would be more than fair.
It satisfies the viewer once watching it again and realising a lot of things. It's even more satisfying than just having it laid out to them the first time. And I think that's one of this film's strengths.
Yeah, very, very useful. Post-production, he has been working tirelessly, and that is showing in his face and the way he's holding himself and getting frustrated with the premiere.
I want it in 16:9.
A few chairs have been thrown about, but he's done really, really well. The edit is very good. I'm impressed with it. Minus a shot here and there, but that's a production problem, not post. So yeah, very hard working in post. Wish he'd been a little bit more in pre, but yeah, been great.
We shot the marble shoot the other day. That was with a piece of perspex on top of a Z1, and basically everyone threw marbles up in the air, and then they come flying down onto the Z1. Well, not onto the Z1, onto the perspex.
Luke Ryder. I really enjoy working with Luke. I enjoy working with him because he can back up what I see as a little bit more of a creative brain with a much more technically minded one. And again, that's really useful to have on the set. I think this is why the group dynamic has worked so well. The best times on set are when I can communicate with Luke without actually having to talk to him. You know, it got to the point, and it was only 3 days shooting, but it got to the point where a glance here or a hand signal is enough, and the shot is then fixed. You know, looking at the post and skipping forward a little bit, there were elements when I looked at the footage and thought, what's happened here? Next shot, it's been fixed. And that's the best thing about Luke, he doesn't have to be constantly watched. And he will also give suggestions, not quite creative in the sense of the story, but creative in the sense of using shots that will accentuate what I needed to accentuate. And that was really, really useful.
Overall, this production, I would give it 10 out of 10 because it's been really enjoyable. It's been the best production I've been involved on as of yet. Even BBC productions haven't been as fun as this. We've got brilliant locations. We had great fun doing most of the shoots. Okay, a few were a bit long and a bit cold and I got hungry, but 10 out of 10 for effort for everybody.
During pre, he was always there. He's got a good work ethic. He likes to have a laugh and play about while we're working, which is useful. But when we get down to it, he really works in doing the storyboard and talking over and working out shots was good. Production, he did everything that I could have asked or wanted for and more. It was just really, really good throughout. And I think he showed his ingenuity. He can innovate's the wrong word, but he can see a situation if it's not going quite right and he can fix it. And he fixes it quite well. Again, with the living room scene, the lighting fix was his idea. That was very good. And during the car scene, when it all went to shit, he really worked harder than the rest than anybody else there to get things rectified. And it came off. So I think during production, absolutely fantastic. During post, it's a little bit difficult because he's so technically minded with the camera. It's difficult for him to do as much, but he was always there to do the little bits that needed to be done.
He's been helping a lot with the behind the scenes.
With the behind the scenes documentary, which I haven't really had much of a part of until now. But yeah, he's always there. I'd have no qualms about ringing him up at any point in time, asking a favour in terms of work and it being done quite quickly. Because that's just the kind of guy he is, and very talented.
The actors, thanks to them, they were brilliant. They were really patient, really professional. And yeah, I just hope you enjoy the movie.
I think in the beginning I was dead set on getting director. I think from the very beginning, even before we formed the group, I knew the kind of people I wanted in the group and even some actual people that I wanted in the group, and really wanted to kind of direct the film, whether I had a hand in writing it or not. I think the biggest problem with that was that when I actually got into it, you kind of then begin to realise how much of a daunting task it is because everything relies on you. You have to be on the ball all the time. And when I'm not on the ball, I get quite frustrated with myself. So when everybody else is relying on me and I kind of drop the ball a little bit, I get angry with myself, not on set, but afterwards particularly. So I think really now I'm trying to think and work out how my performance was as a director. I think I enjoy it very, very much, and I very much want to do it again, much sooner rather than later. I think it's definitely, it's what I want to do, it's what I do as far as I'm concerned. This was an early experience for me, but I think it was a good one, and it'll be interesting to see how the marks come out and what everybody else thinks of how we did and how I did. Because you can't always see it, you can't see it yourself. All you can do is do what you need to do what you think needs to be done, and get on with it. It's only afterwards that you sit back and think, oh, how did I do what did I do right, what did I do wrong? Evaluate it yourself and then move on again. I found that difficult, but it's been fun, and yeah, I want to keep the team together and do another film, because I think the team is really, really good, and I think we would do very, very well to stick together and do a few more productions. It's been a good 14 weeks.
Yeah.
What do you mean there?
No, it's been very good, very nice. Very stressful, but very enjoyable at the same time.
Indeed, very stressful. It's been long days, long weeks, every week. Particularly post-production, I think that's actually been the most taxing.
In terms of workage.
Yeah, in terms of hours spent in front of a machine, you know. During the production, you did the production, then after the production you could actually relax a little bit, but now because you're not actually going out and you don't have a particular plan for the day, you just got to keep going until it's finished, and you can literally keep going non-stop for 24 hours a day. But I enjoy it, it's worth it if the result is good.
Which it will be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty decent. For the first film, definitely. There's also a lot to improve upon, but...
We can do that in our own time, can't we?
Well, I don't just mean on this film. I think from conception, I think there's... Of course, there's always going to be, but there were mistakes made along the way. And, we can't put that right with this film, there's no point, but it'll be enjoyable to try again in a few months. Yeah.
The sky's the limit.
No, the budget's the limit. But it's nice to think in those terms.